my heart for things like assessments is development and for us to continue to grow so that we can be and finish what God's called us to do. Unfortunately, the trend in a lot of things and in missions is we start with a bang and we see a lot of people not being able to finish the thing that God called them to do. And so Pairin is a tool. It is not meant to lock us into anything. There are superpowers that it shows us that we have, and it also shows us our shadows, and so that we can see that. So I'm going to start the PowerPoint real quick so we can get into it. We're going to use this tool today mostly to get to know each other, but I want to set up what Pairin is. I called it Pairin with Pals because somebody said that and it is alliteration and sounds good. We're pals now. John just made us pals. We're now all going fishing together, and people that fish together get to stink together. So what is Pairin? Pairin is the word comes from Pairin. So you guys remember that you took a survey with 300 adjectives, and you were probably like, "Oh my goodness, when will this ever end?" And it asked you to select which one of these, if this adjective was like you or not like you, if you felt like it or not. And one of those was like handsome, and you probably were like, did I select handsome or not? I always select it. That probably will show up in my survey results here. But it's a survey that then measures 105 attributes, which are actually behaviors and mindsets. So this measurement is behaviors and mindsets. This is not a personality profile, but it is based on this adjective checklist, which has been verified for over 60 years and used really well. So there's a lot of algorithms and I call it God magic in behind that just kind of shows this up for us. Some of those attributes, let me give you some examples of those attributes. So 105, that's a lot. Creativity is one. Self-assessment is an example. Resiliency, stress tolerance, it measures and these are all on a scale. So it gives us our intensities is what is seen. The next thing it does is then it groups it. So Pairin has taken those things and they've made groupings. And today we're focusing on groupings. We're going to talk about a couple of the groupings, and that's what this report is that you got, was your top thing in a group, okay? And so then it's targets on the other side. And we are still working on, you guys are part of a great experiment at Global Outreach. One of the things that we really want to do is we want to help figure out what helps missionaries stay on the field. What is a healthy missionary? We don't have that yet, but what targets do, there's two types of targets in brief. There are research-based targets. There's something called the imperatives that is research-based, and it tells us if you're within this, you can see it in the picture there, this little brown bar, that is a good, healthy range, and that's based on science. There's another target that is actually based on other people's profiles. So when we have enough profiles of healthy missionaries that we know, we can identify maybe the top 20 attributes that we could say, if you're kind of in this target for these 20 attributes, we have a high belief that your resilience and your ability to not to fail, but what to do when you do. Like what do you do when you experience anxiety? How do you handle it? What is the process? And how can we help you get into that target? So it's not about in, out, or a frustration. It's about missionary care. That's the point of this. And so that's just kind of the general overview of Pairin. And I want to dig in to our first thing is, you guys should have a report like this that I emailed you. If you have that handy, go ahead and grab it. The 4 things that you're looking at, we're going to go through it, is your thinking style. It's your top thinking style. So we're going to talk about what thinking styles are. Your top driver, I'll talk about that. Your top emotional intelligence quality, I guess, attribute, and your top virtue class. And we're going to kind of dig into those really quickly, and then we're going to use it a little bit to interact. So as John said, I'm just seeing one person's face. I'm seeing his right now, and I'm going to have to go out real quick. I know, it's great to see John's face, but I want to see other people's faces too. So hold on, let me do that. Bring it back in. All right. So, and my slides are really animated, so if they go a couple times because I have to go in and out, it's okay. All right, so thinking styles. Let's talk about this really quickly. There are 4 thinking styles. Okay, so look at yours. See where you are. I'm going to show you these nice little icons. Pairin is a great tech company. They're beautiful. They have beautiful icons. So I didn't make these up. These are theirs. Cooperative practical. There's this little bar when you're sharing your screen, and it is always in my way. I don't know where to put it. Hold on, let me move it up here to get it out of my way. All right, let's try again. Hold on. I'm going to move it again. Darn it. All right, cooperative practical. Imaginative inspirational is that second one there. Some of you are like, oh, that's me. Intuitive conceptual and objective analytical. These sound like really big words. They kind of are and can be very confusing. The first thing I want you to know is in our group today, we have a representation of people with a thinking style, and we have more than one of these, just so you know. This is your top one, or the one that you score the highest in, so it would be like the first. Cooperative practical, imaginative inspirational, and objective analytical. You notice that one is missing in our group. It just disappeared, and that's because intuitive conceptual, we don't have anybody with that top thinking style here. So that's, just a little interesting fact. So what I'd like to do is we're going to launch a poll, and I'd like you to vote what your top thinking style is. So you can go ahead and vote, and when the vote is done, we'll close the poll and we'll look at it. And while that's happening, I'm going to move my little thing again. All right, we've got 4 more people that need to vote, 3 more. It may be, all right, 7 out of 17, 19, 1 more person.
There we go.
All right, go ahead and show us our poll here and see what we got. All right, so it looks like, and I actually think I can see it, we've got the majority of us in this room right now have the primary thinking style of objective analytical. Basically, we'd be great engineers. About 7 of us are cooperative practical, and then we have 1 who's leaning into intuitive conceptual. So take a minute, let's take just take a couple of seconds, read the description of yours. Just look down at your sheet. You don't have to read it out loud, just read it to yourself. And you're going to get a chance to say, this is like me, this is not like me. I agree with this or I don't. It's okay to not agree with the thing, just so you know. It doesn't hurt my feelings or parents. The assessment won't hurt its feelings if you're like, nah, I don't really feel like this. It's true. Take a second and make a note like, yes, I see this, or underline the things in the description that feel like you. And maybe cross out the things that you're like, I don't really feel that. We can go ahead and we'll stop sharing the poll. All right. We're going to do more with that later, but that's just kind of the first kind of thing of thinking style. And what is, I don't go into this deeply besides the description, honestly, because I want to spend most of our time on drivers. So if you have more questions that we could spend, like I coach on this one assessment for a year with people, so we could spend forever, and I don't want to do that. So let's talk about drivers. Drivers, come from this idea where people are born with certain primary demands, like we know of, right? We're all probably familiar with Maslow's hierarchy of needs. We've got these physiological needs and these safety needs. These are our basic needs. And beyond that, psychologists started to call these other things psychological needs. What are the things that we need and our self-fulfillment needs? They changed that word later on so it wasn't confused with physiological to motivation. So what are our motivators? And they're kind of broken into 3 things. And so Pairin has identified 15 various commonly expressed motivators. They call them drivers in 3 different areas. So you can see belonging, ones that kind of group into our psychological need for belonging and love. We need relationship. We need friends. So there's some of them that group into that. Some of our things that we're motivated by are in that kind of like esteem, this feeling of accomplishment, things that we can do. It is a part of our identity and our esteem. Some of that, there's some in there. And then others are in this kind of more self-actualization, as they call it. It's like that creativity, it's that forward thinking, a little bit more in towards of the kind of, you really have to have these other ones met a little bit to actually get to a place where that is a motivator usually. So what your report says is out of the 15, which we're going to talk about, so here's 15 of them. Out of the 15, the one that popped up on your top driver is the one that has the most intensity from when you took yours. So it's the greatest intensity. It doesn't mean you're not motivated by other things. Several of you probably have 5 or 6 extreme, I would say, drivers. So that's okay. But look here at this, the way they've grouped it. So they took that belonging, they made it simple. Love, work, grow. So love, work, grow in that order. So if yours showed up as, if your primary driver was friend or standout or caregiver or loyalist, I think it says loyal follower here, reliant, those are in the love. You are most motivated when this is a part of the driving reason. This is the reason why you do some things. It would be in there. Or if you're in the work category or the grow category. Okay? So let's look at us as a group. So I said that there were 15. We just looked at them. Us here in this room, in our virtual classroom, we have 7 represented here. Okay? 7 of us have fall into the work. Our primary motivation for why we show up and do what we're doing. We're here, we're all here, we love Jesus. We all want to see the gospel proclaimed. We know those things, we have those things in common, right? But we still have like a motivation that drives us a little bit differently. I'm also going to have to go out here because I can't see my slide. So let me go back. It's the only problem with this guy here. All right. So the other group of us, there's a whole bunch of us over here that are caregivers, loyalists, friends, 10 of us. So 43%. God bless my screen. Oh, I love this. 43% of us are motivated by love. A lot of us are caregivers, loyalists, and friends. And one of us is motivated by the one that I can't see at the bottom. Can somebody tell me what it says? I think it's a specialist. No, searcher. Is that right?
Searcher, yeah.
Searcher.
It's down there at the
Thank you,
moment.
John.
Searcher is what was there earlier.
Yes, it's not there yet. There it is. Searcher. All right. So before we go on to the next one, let's see a poll. Can we look at the top driver? Let's vote. What is your top driver? So we can see our percentages in real time of these various things. Where are we? So if we break it down, all right, and I'm looking at my report. I'll self-identify here. I'm a caregiver as my driver. So as we look at it, it may be that we can close the poll. It may be waiting on me, and it won't let me vote. So we've got the majority here. So we've got 5 searchers. That is actually showing up as the majority. 2 caregivers voted. So I think there's some more that didn't get to vote in there. A director, specialist, 3 tugboats. And one of the things that I want you to do, so take a couple seconds, look down at your sheet. Mine says that caregivers want to help and attend to others. They're sympathetic towards people. So take a minute, I'm going to be quiet so you can read. And again, circle things that feel like you, that you see, and mark out things or star things that you don't agree with. I hope that after today, people will trust and confide in me still. I don't know. I think so, as the bottom of that caregiver. All right. And I'm gonna close the poll and look at you guys for a second. Anybody want to share, just one person tell me that looks at theirs and goes, yeah, that really connected with me. Tell us what it is, and it can be staff or candidate. Whoever jumps first. Raise up their hand. Who's going to be bold and brave in a group of so many people?
I will. Okay.
Okay,
I'm
go for it.
I'm a loyalist, and uh, one of the sentences that struck me was value relationship over control and conform easily to custom. So
Yeah, I would say that does sound like you definitely value relationship, and we appreciate that so much about you, Marshall. Thank you. So those are our drivers. And again, there's 15 things that they've identified that are common motivators. And one of the things that we will do in a future for the staff, a future development, is talk about motivators, demotivators, and dig into it a little bit more. But this is just kind of your top one that kind of helps you. This is my superpower. I can lean into these things. If I'm feeling unmotivated, how can I become motivated? Where can I look at and find ways that this thing, so can only motivate you. You can't, no one can motivate you. It's an internal, these are internal motivators. This isn't going to happen if we give you more money or you raise more money, because we're not given money necessarily. But so it's an internal motivation. Okay. Let's look at the next one quickly here. And I'm afraid that it's, all right. So, emotional intelligence, you may have heard about this. It's oftentimes now called EQ. It's a fairly popular term. And if you're familiar with IQ, or the IQ tests that were given back in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, and it was around the 70s that they started realizing we're now just like starting to teach again, that this fixed IQ thing isn't as fixed as we were always told it was. That we have this intelligence, this mental ability, this intelligence that was fixed. But somebody by the name of Daniel Goleman did a lot of research and started popularizing the term emotional intelligence, or EQ, emotional quotient, with this idea that you have an intelligence, but then there's an emotional intelligence that is actually more important, and it can grow. So we can grow in emotional intelligence. And in fact, if you're a parent, you can see how your children are doing this. You can see how you do. And the first thing you want to know is, like, what is this thing called emotional intelligence? It's a simple foreframe, and it starts with self-awareness, which is funny because if we think biblically about how the Bible says, love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, and mind, and love your neighbor as you love yourself, I really believe that we do love our neighbor as we love ourselves. So I can get to know my neighbor as I know myself. So this ability to be able to be aware of how you're feeling, what is impacting you, what kind of things that you may be subject to, or what particular weaknesses or sins, that's a part of awareness, your emotion. So it's this idea of like, I know myself, I'm learning. We learn about ourselves through things like this. We learn from good friends and family. We learn from mistakes. If we can hear feedback from people, we learn from the Lord. He is so happy to tell us and help us and encourage us in the ways that He's created us, because we are made in His image. Self-management is the second thing. So once I know about myself, can I manage myself? I had a situation yesterday where I really wanted to say a lot of things, and I managed myself to say, you know what, I don't know that that's as important, and I'm not exactly sure yet why I feel like I need to say that. So I had to go back and assess, what am I feeling and why? And is this necessary to say? Like, is this going to be beneficial? And so a part of those are like a lot of different skill sets inside of self-management. Social awareness is the ability to kind of see the environment and what's going on. I'm going to speed up because I'm looking at my time. I want to make sure you have time to talk to each other. And relationship management is being able to manage those relationships. So let's quickly throw in, let's do this other poll. I was going to skip them, but can we throw this poll up? What do you most feel strong in? If you were to pick one of these, so this isn't on your sheet necessarily, but if you were to say, I feel like I know myself, I'm pretty self-aware, I can really manage myself. I control when I really want to let somebody have it. I understand other people, but I can manage my relationships. I have good relationships. I have good leadership skills. People have told me that. All right, we've got a few more people. Keep voting. Don't worry, we're not going to hold you to this. This is and we don't see any names. This is all anonymous, so it's okay. But one more to vote if you haven't voted. Yep, there we go. Okay, let's go ahead and end the poll and share our results. So we're looking here and we say the majority of us, so eight out of, well, it's pretty close, self-management, self-awareness. We would say we have good self-awareness, we have good self-management. I feel strongest in this area. So let's see what our Pairin scores tell us. So your top EQ skill, we'll go ahead and shut down that poll. And just for you guys know, I have to get out in order to get the poll off my screen. It's a weird thing with this. All right, so what falls under self-awareness? So here are some of the things. The self-examiner, if that's you, or if yours says self-confident as your top EQ skill, which is a really good thing, by the way. It's not a bad thing. It's good to be self-confident. That falls into the self-awareness, like a top skill in self-awareness. Self-management is the calm, cool, collected. We do have a lot of people. That indicates usually a high amount of self-restraint. Remember, everything is a superpower and also has a shadow side. So you can imagine that there are times when having high restraint and not knowing when or feeling comfortable to ask for help could be difficult when you're working with a team, and it could be damaging to you, especially if we can't ask the Lord or be able to have that lower that restraint. But a lot of times it's really good, right? Because you don't fly off the handle in situations. So those are really good things. Those of us that are the group expert, there's 3 here, and if I remember correctly, this is individual people. So a group expert, understanding a group, is that social awareness, being able to kind of read a room, so to speak. Really wanting to serve. To be at your service, you have to notice that there's a need. I pay attention a lot. My mom lives with me. She's 85. I pay attention to her needs, and I usually answer them before she asks me. I get you is empathy, understanding somebody else. You have high social awareness. And then if yours says people developer, which a lot of ours do, I believe, then your high EQ skill would be in relationship management. Now remember, this doesn't mean that you don't have these other 4. We all would have different places, and this is a moment in time in some cases. So Pairin is a snapshot and a moment in time when you took it, and so if you were having a particularly hard week and you answered things certain ways, it would also indicate that a little bit in your results. All right, so that is the third one. The last thing is called Virtue Class, and there are 7 of these. The interesting thing about Virtue Class is it's broad virtue classes identifying basically 24 character strengths that are pretty specific. And these virtues is where researchers have they've attempted to create a systematic way to classify and measure these widely understood, valued positive traits. So these positive traits that people have and character traits, they tried to understand them, and they have a really fascinating connection to them. We have, I've put 5 on here. There's 6. These 5 represent us. So if you look at your virtue class right now, it either says lover of humanity, courage, justice, transcendence, or moderation. I put up in the Facebook group, so you'll want to download this, the connection of character qualities to this. And we're not going to do a poll with this, but I will tell you that in our group, 11 of us, or 48%, have the highest trait of lover of humanity. And the character traits that go with that are love, kindness, social intelligence. One of us has the lover of courage, which is bravery. These are character traits that would be positive character traits. Perseverance, honesty, zest. Again, doesn't mean you don't have those things if this wasn't your top skill. You probably do, but they're just kind of in varying degrees as showed up by your results. 4 people were in the justice category, teamwork, fairness, and leadership. 6 people were in moderation, and 1 was in transcendence, the appreciation of beauty, gratitude, spirituality, hope, and humor. And I do want to call this person out because it is Leanna, and I really could see that. It was very, very obvious. I was like, of course, she is our director of intercessory prayer. And she beautifully puts together things as a host with appreciative beauty. She has added that to us so many times. She leads us in hope, gratitude, and she's funny. Humor is another character trait. So this is just really cool. So, and I hope that me calling her out, since so good, she's okay with that. She can let me know another time and give me feedback on that. So guys, we only have about 10 minutes, and what I want to do is we're going to get into groups, and we've pre-assigned those groups. And before we go there, just take a second, look at your four things, your top qualities, and pick one. Pick one of them and say, you know what, this one, I have a story or a bullet. We're going to take about 30 seconds. Like a couple of things come to mind about how this represents me. You saw me just say how Leanna, and I could give very specific examples actually, about how this virtue class really represents, and I can see it in her. So think about yourself. Take a deep breath. Pick one of them. Think, oh yeah, I can see this thinking style or this EQ thing. Okay. And then why? What are a couple of things about you that you could describe to somebody else, using that you can describe yourself to somebody else? Take about 15 more seconds to think, write a few notes. And as you're doing that, Emily will start to tell us what's going to happen next.
Hi guys, you're going to get the transcendent experience of entering into breakout rooms. When I click open rooms, please select go and join the room that you are assigned to. And then I will give you, after a couple of minutes of talking and sharing, how much time, Charlene, are you going to give them in the room? 10 minutes to talk to each other. I will give you a 1-minute warning at the 9-minute mark that will pop up on your screen. And then you will be brought back into our session.
I'd love like 1 or 2 volunteers to introduce somebody that was in your room. It would be lovely if I have a staff person that could introduce one of our candidates to us using the top quality that they expressed. Anybody in the room could do that? So we could get to, because I didn't get to go in the rooms with our candidates, so.
I can introduce to you Kat.
Yeah, please do. Thanks, Bob.
And it's easy for me to remember hers because they're almost all the same as mine. So we know what are the best ones. So Kat is an objective analytical thinker. So she thinks things through. She is a specialist. So she knows what's the right thing and she does it. She's also cool, calm, and collected, except when she's not, but she is. And she is a lover of moderation. Since that's
A lover of moderation. That's good. All right. Thank you, Bob. Kat, we're so happy to have you with us and excited to get to know you better throughout this month. I'm glad that everybody gets a month because there's going to be a lot of more. It's good English, not good English. Don't pattern after me. There are going to be many more opportunities to interact and get to know each other. Becky, I know that we have a full rest of the time, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up and say if any of you would like a deeper debrief, I can offer a 30-minute debrief in July, not in June. So email me and I can give you a 30-minute debrief just because we care.